Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. We're covering the final 3 days of Ascot today. I am your host, Micheál Deasy, jumping in for Tom Stanley, who's too busy, and I'm joined by a stellar cast of Steve Jones, Charlie Poste, and Andrew Blair White. We're just going to jump straight into Thursday's racing because it's starting in 2.5 hours. We're just going to have one bet each from everyone. So we start off with you, Andrew. What's your best bet on Thursday?
Yeah, hoping for one in the Hampton Court. The 5:35. Going to take a chance on Jackknife for Roger Varian and Oisin Murphy. Very much unexposed. Probably has it to find, obviously, with Detain and Trinity College on ratings. But he was very eye-catching at Sandown the last day. Obviously won his maiden impressively first time up. He was behind Opera Ballo and Bay City Roller, both two good horses in their own right. Over a mile as well, and it certainly shaped like a horse that would want to be going out and trip. Looked like when just the penny dropped, he hit the line quite hard. It kind of was all at sea, 2 down. So I'm hoping that will stand to him. I think he's got a right chance against. Obviously, Detain is the market leader and does have it to, you do have to go and improve past him. Trinity College looked like a horse that I wanted to take on. So Jackknife for me in the Hampton Court at 5:35.
Very good. Steve?
Witch Hunter in the final race of the day, who won this race 2 years ago, has become very well handicapped, was running in group races much of last summer and was running well, was only touched off in the Hungerford Stakes and also ran good race in the Queen Anne. Was fourth in the Queen Anne this meeting last year. Well, going from the Group 1 to a handicap, and I think it's been lined up for this race. So Witch Hunter in the final race.
Yeah, he's a tasty price. He's 29.0, and there are 6 places available on the Matchbook Exchange for this race. Charlie, you've won close to the top of the market in this.
Yeah, same race as Steve. Never So Brave for me. The Andrew Bolden team ran well on his first start for that yard at Chester. I thought he was really unlucky. He was raced a bit free, got shot in at a crucial moment, and then only just failed to get up. He ran well in the Jersey Stakes for Sir Michael Stout last year, so he's a bit of course form as well. I think there's still movement in the handicap mark for him, and there's no reason he can't improve beyond this race today and end up a group horse later in the season.
Yeah, he's been backed into favoritism now. He's trading at 8.0 ahead of English Oak. My tip is Labotte in the Britannia, trained by Harry Eustace, who won this a few years ago with Docklands, who had a very similar profile, very similar prep. There's been a ton of money for him. He's 11.0 now. He was available at 26.0 on Monday. So hoping he goes well. And again, Matchbook has actually got 6 places available on this. Most books are only playing the first 4, so you get a bit of extra each way value on the Matchbook Exchange and that. Right, that's Thursday covered. Best of luck to everyone. We are going to jump straight into the Albany on Friday, and amazingly, I'm the only one with a bet in this. I'll just go through it very quick now. It's a speculative enough one now, but my tip is Fairy Oak for Michael O'Callaghan. What's there. So Fairy Oak finished second to Warsaw on debut, but flew up the home straight at Navan and did all her best work in the final furlong. She came basically from last to second, ran very green. She's a big price. She's 50.0, and Michael O'Callaghan doesn't waste too many bullets coming over to the UK. And another thing I suppose that caught my eye was that it was sold yesterday for 225k. So running in new colours, Michael O'Callaghan out of box 10. I just thought for a win place bet, she was a nice one at a right big price. Commonwealth Cup, we'll come to you. Charlie and Andrew on the same one. So we'll come to you first, Steve. Give us your big price pick for that.
Big Mojo. A horse who was a really, really smart 2-year-old last year, really quick 2-year-old as well. But this season, won first time up over 6 over this course. He's got a bit of Ascot form, Big Mojo. He also went over to the Breeders' Cup last year. Wasn't quite quick enough for 5 round a turn. But last time, I think he's just been ignored in the betting because in the Sandy Lane up at Haydock, he didn't get much daylight, and he got going a bit too late at Haydock. They got away from him, and with a clearer run, I think he'd have been a lot closer. And going back to Ascot on faster ground is just ideal for Big Mojo. He is a real player. I'm amazed he's this sort of price, to be honest.
You're muted, Dees. Need Dees, you're muted. Oh, no.
Yeah. Charlie and Andrew, you bought the same one. So, Charlie, you can come in first on him there for telling me I was muted.
Yeah, Shadow Light at the top of the market. He was a very, very good two-year-old, won the Middle Park and the Dewhurst. Stamina was always seen as a question mark, but he started off in the 2,000 guineas, and look, he led them to 100 yards from home before ruling court, and Field of Gold outstayed him. This was always going to be the next route. Stiff 6 at Ascot should suit him ideally. I felt for myself with Jonquil, who's a bit bigger in the market, third favourite in the betting. I can't imagine if Field of Gold wasn't around that this horse wouldn't have been running the St James Palace rather than come in here. And Babouche, J-Line's a pessimist, but I thought his comments after the filly one at Nace were very lukewarm. So I think they've all got a lot of work to do to beat Shadow Light, and I think I'm very strong on him.
Andrew, anything else to add in that?
No, not particularly. The case kind of makes itself. I suppose the only small little kind of caveat is Charlie Appleby's form at Royal Ascot over the last couple of years, which is something that I suppose needs to be brought up when you're going in at something relatively short. But he's got the best form in the race. I'd be like Charlie. I couldn't have Babouche in a fit in this race, to be honest. I can't see her even being in the frame. I think she's far too short. So Shadow Light, if he brings that form from last year, if he brings the third from the Guineas here, he should be winning.
Very good. Right, we'll jump on to the Duke of Edinburgh Stakes, and Andrew will come straight back to you.
Yeah, quite like War Rooms in this. Certainly going down the Ger Keane, Colin Keane way of this race from last year, obviously with Crystal Black. And they got this horse off Owen Burrows. Some decent enough 3-year-old form last year, was notably third in the Dante, ran in the King Edward and was mid-div at Ascot last year. He's ran in 2 conditions races over 1.6 miles, and has just been touched off in both of them in Ireland, has dropped down to a mark of 99 as a result. I think that will play to him in this race where they'll likely go quite quick. There's quite a lot of pace on paper, and quite a lot of the time you have these races that slightly fall apart in front of you. Ethical Diamond, obviously top of the market, and top of the market for just reason. But I've done my dough on him so many times. I can't go back to the well one more time on him, unfortunately. So I thought War Rooms, who was, I think, around the 9.0 mark, I thought was fair enough. I don't think he was an enormously overpriced horse, but I thought he was around fair at the price he was.
Say you get a bit bigger on that now. I'm just trying to get the prices up here. Steve, do you want to make your case for Almanshar?
Yeah, Almanshar is solid. It's towards the top of the betting. Just a very progressive horse who beat a good horse who's also in here called Stress Free last time at York, despite being keen, and was probably a bit aggressively ridden for the way the race was run. But Almanshar, the fact that he's been seeing out his races despite being keen, I think when he gets in a race like this, if he can get cover, he's drawn very wide, which hasn't been any barrier to success in this race in the past. So if Clifford Lee can get some cover in a reasonable place and he does settle, I think he's going to improve and he'll end up in group races in the not too distant future.
That's the stuff. So it's Almanshar for Steve at about 8.0 and War Rooms for Andrew at about 9.0. Charlie, you've done your dough on this already with Caviar Heights, so we won't dig into that. Next up is the Coronation Stakes. Charlie, we'll come back to you. You haven't got to speak in a while, so give us the
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not convinced this is the strongest race in the world. And I mean, we've obviously got the French Guineas winner in there, Zaragana, that won that race in the stewards' room. Obviously, there was a long-winded saga with that. I mean, I'm not convinced that form is that strong. I mean, for all that she is a super talented horse, but I'd just be wary of her now, especially with the ground quickening up all the time. And I came down with Falakea for the Owen Burrows team. Only the 2 starts. She was seriously good at Newmarket over 10 furlongs. earlier in May. But the way she travelled through the race, I just don't see dropping back in trip around the turn on this stiff track being any sort of barrier to her. And, you know, she's 2 from 2. She's got it all in front of her, and you know, we've no idea what the ceiling of her ability is. The horse that she beat at Newmarket runs in the Ribblesdale today, and like I said, the way she travelled through the race, you'd imagine dropping down to a Marna stiff track is going to suit her really well. So yeah, I thought she was the most interesting one in this contest.
Okay, that's Falakir for Charlie. Andrew, who you want?
Yeah, I'm on Contiki here for Jane Chapel-Lyme, William Buick. Similar enough case to Charlie. I wanted to take on Zaragana just for not sure that the strength of the form, not sure some of these French horses have underperformed this week already, probably on quicker ground than they're usually accustomed to. I thought Contiki was possibly the lurker in here as just an improver. Only just gets the job done, but is now 3 from 3. Beat Life is Beautiful, who was the horse Charlie was mentioning, who's running in the Ribblesdale, who was then behind Faleka last time out at Newmarket, at Kempton, and then went up and won a listed race at York at the Dante meeting. That form is only so-so. It's got a knock or two and a boost or two in there. The second Bermuda Longtail let it down. The third Twaya went out and won a listed race out in Longchamp. So hard to know kind of what to make of that. But I do think she's a horse on the improve. She seems to like good ground, which she's definitely obviously going to get. And I just think at 9.4, 9.5, around that, there's a little bit more juice in that price than maybe taking the slightly shorter odds.
Yeah, and there's 4 places available on Matchbook for the Coronation Stakes. Steve, Chantilly Race?
Yeah, Chantilly Lace, who I thought ran an absolute stormer in the 1,000 Guineas. Okay, the form of that is falling apart a bit, but she had only run once last season at the back end on heavy ground at Salisbury, and she won, but she didn't look all that well suited to deep ground. She's much better on the faster ground. So to run 5th first time up and only beaten a couple of lengths or so in the Guineas, and the fact that she probably wasn't the best place, obviously Desert Flower making all the running, and she looked for all the world like she needed the run, like a lot of Rafe Beckett's horses did at that time, and she finished strongly. I think she's going to be an awful lot sharper. This is a very winnable race. Don't like those at the top of the betting, especially Zaragana. Be interesting to see if she responds to the whip rather than the hand as she did in the Guineas. But Micheál Barcelona for me, don't fancy him from a wide draw in a race like this. So I think Chantilly Lace, if she does take as big a step forward from the Guineas as I think she will, I think she's a real player at double figure odds.
Okay, that's Falakir for Charlie, Contiki for Andrew, and Chantilly Lace in the Coronation Stakes. So we're going to go on to the Sandringham here now. I'm going to start off. I'm going to jump in here now. We just have a question in there. How do you place each way on Matchbook site from KT5K? I'll explain that now. We call it win place because we're on exchange. So the one I'm putting up now, Miss Nightfall, is she is a win place bet. So if you have a look at this horse, its last run was a bit of a Goodwood hard luck story. Was kind of sat out the back, had to make her way through traffic. Didn't get an early run and was beaten by a horse that came flying down the outside. That's got first run on her. If you have a look back at her 2-year-old form, she finished third in the very valuable 2-year-old race at Doncaster, finishing behind Hallasan and Camille Pizarro. Again, flying home from the back. And again, second again at the final run of the season on heavy ground at Goodwood to Love Talk, who has gone up in the race again since. She's rated 89. I'd say she's probably a bit better than that. Oshie Murphy is on her, and she is 21.0. So back her each way or win place, you would place, you split your stakes, put a tenner on the win market, and then you have place 3, place 4, place 5, place 6, or place 7. And you can place more stakes in that then as well to get your each way bet down. Hope that answers your question. Who's next? Steve, Betty Clover.
Yeah, Betty Clover. It's jumping on a bit of a recency bandwagon, to be quite honest, with Betty Clover. Because the form of her... Where is she? I've lost her.
She's got a few boosts.
Oh God, I can't get the form up now. There's too many horses and my eyesight's too bad. But yeah, Eve Johnson Horton had a winner yesterday. She's running the form of her last run. There she is at the top of the bet, and I was looking too far down. She's got William Buick in the saddle. She was beaten a nose at Goodwood in a listed race in May by Crimson Advocate, who obviously yesterday came out and won the Group 2. So that form couldn't have worked out much better. And then last time over in Shanty, ran a perfectly respectable race to finish third in a Group 2 over there. She had a lot of group form last season as well. She's tough. She's had a lot of experience, but she hasn't had much racing over a mile, and she has seemed to improve going up to a mile this season. So on the back of that run 2 starts ago that was shown to be strong form yesterday, then I think she's outstanding there, and she's been well backed on the back of that, but she has got a great chance.
No bet for you, Andrew. Charlie, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, Bountiful for me. So last year's winning connections, George Bowie, Billy Lugnan, and Highclere Racing. This filly had a good juvenile campaign, ran really well behind Arabian Dusk at Newmarket in the Group 2 there at the July Festival, and didn't see her after that. And then she ran against the Colts at Lingfield there at the beginning of March, and she's not beat very far. Ran well, was 3rd of 7 behind Rebels Gamble. I'd imagine we haven't seen her since then to sort of keep a lid on this mark. And I think the draw is fine. And like I said, I'd imagine 97 has got movement in it, hence why the connections are going down this route. I mean, it's a race full of those sort of types. But yeah, Bountiful for me, win and place third. I think she'll have 13.0.
Okay, that's Bountiful, Betty Clover, and Miss Nightfall in the Sandringham. Onto the King Edward VII Stakes. Charlie, I'll come straight back to you.
Yeah, very boring. Puppet Master for me for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. Last season, he stayed really well to win the Lingfield Derby trial, and stuck it out against one of his own team. And again, I thought coming away from that track to this slightly more conventional track and stiffer finishing should suit him really well. And the way he saw it out, I think he's a Camelot, so they do tend to keep improving with age and time. And yeah, it's pretty obvious. But I mean, with Amalok in there, you're getting 5.0 who dominates the market. I'd just be slightly wary of him. He was very good at Goodwood on his latest start, but he looks a bit quirky, and he struggled to travel mid-race before seeing it out really well. Just wondered on this quicker ground again if he might get slightly found out for that. So Puppet Master at 5.0.
Yeah, the way if Beckett Yard isn't going well this week either. Andrew, we're on the same horse, so I'll let you make the case for him.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that, Dees, but this is up there with the bet of the week, I reckon. Zaran for Johnny Murta. I really, really fancy this horse. Just everything in his favour. I think he's been improving run to run, was impressive down in Cork, winning a relatively ordinary maiden. But he was very, very good at Leopardstown last time, stepped up to 1.5 miles. Very difficult to come from the back at Leopardstown, especially on good ground where it favours the pace. It kind of reminded me of Al Manzour back in the day. He was coming 10 wide, but he kind of stormed to the lead with around a furlong to go. I think Connections have very, very closely been thinking about running this horse in the Irish Derby. I think there's been a little bit of toing and froing with the owners about where they can get to, whether they can come over to the Curwen, whether they can go to Ascot. They've gone for this instead. He's drawn 11 of 11, which obviously isn't necessarily ideal, but he's the type of horse to take his time. I'm sure Ben Cohen will slot in on him. And I just had my reservations. I was very similar to Charlie. I wasn't a massive fan of what Amalok did in the middle part of the race at Goodwood. He kind of dropped anchor and kind of was well behind the bridle for a long way. And then the race slightly fell apart in front of him. Puppet Master was good at Lingfield, but he looked a grinder. He looked like a horse that maybe wanted an even stiffer test than 1.5 miles. And I think this Zaran's a very, very classy horse. And to be honest, I'd be disappointed if by the end of this season, we're not seeing him in Group 1 races.
Yeah, I'd echo all that. I mean, if you just watch back his race at Leopardstown, Ben Cohen was pushing away at him even before they got around the bend, and he just came so wide and just finished like a train. Very eye-catching. I think he'll go very well. On to the final race of the day, the Palace of Holyrood House Stakes. They could surely come up with a better name for this. No bet for me in this. Steve, who'd you fancy?
Small selection, small stakes on Red Orange, who's very speedy, won it Chester last time, gets out the traps quite quick. It's drawn on the far side, but I don't think that there's been much track bias at all. It's just where the pace has been throughout this week. And Red Orange is quite happy up with the pace. So it should be pretty straightforward. So, yeah, in a wide open race, I thought Red Orange had a decent shot.
Charlie?
Yeah, Stormy Impact for me. Richard Fahey's yard, he had a double at Epsom with this horse in the 3-year-old sprint. Started off the year with a solid return over 6 at Newmarket, dropped back, got up real late at Epsom, finished, hit the line strong. Again, just thought there would be £5 rise. I thought was fair enough, and I thought there would be more to come on a more conventional stiff finishing track like this. I suppose the one that could be the problem for everyone is realigned for the Wathnan team. Could be very well handicapped, but I thought Stormy Impact with Warren Fentiman back on board. It was interesting. 11.0 winning place again for me.
Yeah, I was actually there at Epsom that day watching him, and he hit the line so late that there was no reaction from the crowd. I think he caught everyone by surprise. He came up so fast, and he was well back in the day. So I'll probably follow you in on that. Andrew, go on.
Yeah, going to take a chance on Hammer the Hammer. Very progressive horse this year. Drops back down to 5 furlongs. Don't think that would be of any inconvenience considering how fast he is. He's won his last 2 races over 6 furlongs very impressively. It was a demolition job at Chester the last day. The handicapper hasn't missed him. He's top weight off 100. And he's the type of horse, I know he's 12.0. You might even get a little bit bigger on the day, but I don't think he's almost a place proposition, to be honest. I think he'll either spread eagle these and it would be kind of a Tom Eves or just let him fly, or he'll get swamped in the end. So he's one of those ones I'm just going to take a chance on that he's still ahead. I thought the way he won at Chester, he was going to make up into being a group sprinter in time. So if that's correct, a mark of 100 still should be within compass, even though £12 obviously for winning a race around Chester does look a little bit harsh. But I'm certainly willing to give him a go. And I think dropping down to 5 furlongs on this stiffer track will suit.
Very good. So that's Red Orange, Stormy Impact, and Hammer the Hammer in the Lucky Last on Friday. Charlie, you've won our bet for Friday as well.
Yeah, just with our Stormy Impact form line, Blinky, who finished 4th in the 3-year-old sprint at Epsom, found a lot of trouble that day, got behind and was sort of staying on and like it's without finding a smooth passage. He's in a Goodwood tomorrow evening, and I think it's the quarter past, at 13 minutes past 8. Looks much calmer waters, and he's definitely a horse that's still got upside with his mark. So yeah, Blinky, Goodwood, 8:13.
Very good. Okay, we're going to look at our Matchbook Zero Friday long shot. So my one is Miss Nightfall in the Sandringham. Steve?
Shanti Lace in the Coronation Stakes.
Charlie?
Yeah, Bountiful in the Sandringham like you, Dees.
And Andrew?
Taking a chance on Hammer the Hammer in the Palace of Holyrood House.
Good job, perfect. Some big prices there. And finally, our best Friday bet. So straight back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, no surprise, Zaran in the King Edward.
Charlie?
Well, I was going to chuck in Puppet Master, but I saw someone else got in with that. Andrew did, so I'll change to Falakea for the spirit of the podcast.
Falakea. And Steve?
Big Mojo, massively overpriced in the Commonwealth Cup.
Yeah, and as always, there's a £5 money back special on the best bets. So stick those 3 into a treble and put £5 on it. And if it's a losing bet, you get a £5 free bet on Saturday. Be a nice payout as well at that with Big Mojo if he clicks. Right, we'll jump on straight onto Saturday there. So we have no bet in the first. We're going to go straight into the Hardwick Stakes at 3:05. Steve, I'll come back to you there straight away.
Yeah, going to take a shot at Palladium, who had really strong German form, which is always underrated. And Palladium then joined Nicky Henderson, paid lot of money for this horse to go hurdling. Won at Huntingdon, but straight away out to John and Thady Gosden, and only ran last week at Goodwood when third behind Hamish, looking in need of the run. And all his form's on soft ground, but he gallops like a fast ground horse. So I never, on the continent, I never really trust the going descriptions. And although he's got a fair bit of ground to make up on Rebels Romance when they met at Cologne in September, I do think he's a very interesting runner, Palladium, because it's full of the same old horses. And he's something that could be a little bit better with that German form continually underrated.
It's Palladium, available around 13.0 for the Hardwick. Charlie?
I'm with Elassie Dease, but what do if we got a discount code that we've got to tell him about, haven't we, as well? And he's a big price. I might want to make use of that.
Discount code? Oh, the pod 50 free bets. Sorry about that, yeah. We forgot that at the start. So the sign up offer all the time. Sign up matchbook with the code pod 50. Place £50 worth of bets settled across 4 different bets. So you can do 4 bets of $12.50, 5 tenors, bets on singles, multiples, bet builders, whatever you want. And once they're all settled, you will get 5 £10 free bets to use on whatever you want. So there you go.
So yeah, LRC for me, I mean, he's a quirky horse and he's been around forever, but he's been incredibly well managed to win a heap of group races. He started again this year off well at Sandown, where he beat Ancient Wisdom, and then a Newbury behind Eden. Just probably wasn't enough pace for him. He is vulnerable to that, but hopefully there'll be a gallop on here. He's got Ascot form. If they go a good gallop, he'll be travelling strong 2 out. It'd just be a case of whether Jim Crowley can get the split at the right moment. A big respect for Rebel Romance, but I just thought he was short enough in a race of this nature. And then I was looking through it and I thought I wasn't sure what I wanted to take him on with. But Al Arsi, for all his quirks, he's a pretty consistent horse that's always there or thereabouts. And I thought 11.0 was big enough for him.
Okay, that's Al Arsi at 11.0 for our new producer Charlie, and Palladium at 13.0. or Steve. Jump on to the QE2 Jubilee Stakes, the big sprint on Saturday. Andrew, do you want to come in there first?
Yeah, Inisherin for me, really, as the main selection here. Winner of the Commonwealth Cup last year, of course, in distance form, seems to love quick ground. I thought he was impressive enough at York on his reappearance when it looked like he might need it as well. So I'd like to hope that there'll be a step forward from that. Buick booked, which is a positive, and just a little bit kind of heart overhead, I must confess, but I'm going to have something small on James's Delight, horse that's done many a good turn for me in the past. Won at the Curragh last time out. I think he's a progressive sprinter, and hopefully the type of horse that, it mightn't be on Saturday because the ground might be that shade too quick, but I do think there's probably a Group 1 race in this horse at some stage, maybe a little bit later in the year, but he is a very big price, so maybe something just for a little place play.
Yeah, he is 34.0. At least you're going to be getting about 5 places on this race. Charlie, would you fancy?
Yeah, I'm with Andrew Inisherin. I was a massive Elite Status fan all last year, but I think I'm going to have to accept that Inisherin is the better horse. And as Andrew said, he'd had a wind up before his comeback at York. I mean, if Kevin Ryan's to be believed, it sounded like the prep was very much interrupted by that, and they were worried that he was only just getting there, hadn't been able to take him away or anything. If he's going to step forward on that, then I think with the Ascot form as well that he's already got in the bag, he's the one they've all got to beat. And I thought he was very interesting at 5.0.
Steve?
Flora of Bermuda, who hasn't had an awful lot of luck in certainly the back end of last season. She was drawn right out on the wing in the Champions Sprint on Champions Day, and only beaten half a length. In the Sprint Cup before that, she didn't get the clearest of runs, and she's got good form throughout her career. Now, she was a neck second to Inisherin first time up at York, but she travelled all over him. Inisherin just got going, and as she again found a fair bit of trouble when she gets the breaks, she's going to win because she has the gears to win this. There's no doubt. And when she gets that bit of luck, which hopefully will be in the what do they call it these days? Something Jubilee, isn't it? Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee. Yeah, she's got the ability to win it. She just needs the breaks, and she's overpriced considering where Inisherin and her are in the market. Well, she's twice the price as Inisherin. Shouldn't be.
Yeah, she's available around 13.0. I'll be following Andrew in on James's Delight. I think he's a very big price, and Clive Cox went very close with Carlos as well. He's only had 3 runners so far at the meeting, and 2 of them have placed. So I think he's well worth a bet at 34.0. And I'm taking a mad swing as well at Iberian. He is 100 to 101.0. It's a bit of a reacher of a case, but he had decent 2-year-old form over 7 furlongs. They tried him to make him a Guinea's horse, was no good. He's had wind surgery, and he came back to win on the all-weather at the back end of last season. He's had 2 runs this season, was beaten by Spycatcher and Doncaster on soft ground at the start of the season. Went over to the Curragh then in the race that was won by James's Delight, but he was a big drifter on the day. He obviously didn't enjoy the trip over to Kildare. Look, Charlie Hill's won this. He's a very good record in this. He knows how to get him ready. He won it 2 years ago with Cadam at a massive price and followed up again the following year. Another big price was underestimated by the market. I'll be having a little place bet, maybe the 6 or 7 places if they're available, and a minimum stakes win bet just in case. Right, we'll jump onto the Jersey Stakes. So, Steve, I'll come straight back to you.
Yeah, typically wide open, but I thought Saracen had a chance for Joseph O'Brien, who won first time up at the Curragh at the back end of last season, 3rd at Newbury in the Greenham. Now, the Greenham Stakes worked out quite well. John Quill obviously beaten the head in the French Guineas from a wide draw. And Rashabar, who has been coming up and running okay behind Field of Gold. And Saracen, only 2 starts. That first start of the season is the only one that he's had this season. So, I mean, he's got a chance, I think, Saracen. So he was my pick in it, but not massively strong.
So that's Saracen, available at about 9.0. Charlie, do you want to come in there?
Yes, mate. Yeah, Comanche Brave for me. I mean, there's as Steve has said, there's a load of unexposed ones in there, but then others with bits and pieces of classic form. And I came down with this lad again. He's towards the top of the market, but his 2 runs this year have been very good. Beyond Henri Matisse, over 7 at Leopardstown in the trial, and he travelled really strong that day, and then pitched back up against Field of Gold at the Curragh. He finished 5th. But beat some decent horses as well in their own right. And I think dropping back a furlong is going to suit him well. And look, Gavin Ryan is an excellent rider, but we've got Ryan Moore taking over on Saturday, which can be no bad thing at Ascot. So I just thought he was the obvious one that brought on the balance of it the strongest form to the table.
Yeah, and so Donica is only sending over 2 horses to Ascot. This is the second one. Very good trainer for the top level races, even though he's quite young. Andrew, I think you're the only one left.
Yeah, going to take a chance on Remuse, hoping that it's going to be 45 minutes of fun for Owen Burrows on Saturday. Overall, this horse has been very, very impressive in his 2 starts at Doncaster, should I say, especially his second win. I was really taken by how he travelled under a penalty. He was giving an awful lot of weight away to a well-fancied Wathnan filly of Rafe Beckett's. Has that straight track form. Seems to be ground versatile as well. Won on good to firm to start with in his first start. So that shouldn't pose any issues. He is relatively short for a horse that doesn't have any group race form. I do understand that, but he certainly has potentially more scope than a few of these to develop into a real proper horse. And I've just been, you know, sometimes you watch a maiden, sometimes you really get a real feel out of a horse watching a novice, how they travel through it. And that's how I got with him at Doncaster the last day. He looked like a really nice horse. So removes for Owen Burrows and Callum Rodriguez.
So that's Remove for Andrew, Comanche Brave for Charlie, and Saracen for Steve in the jersey. Okay, on to the 5 o'clock, which is the Wokingham. Andrew, we come straight back to you there. You can keep going with your selection.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going with this Owen Burrows trend with Giraffe. One of my stronger handicap fancies of the week. Very positive on this horse. He's got plenty of good course and distance form. Was second in the Ben Goff Stakes at the end of last year on softer ground. I think he's a little bit better on nicer ground as well, including when he won a course and distance handicap. That was the last time Billy Loughnane rode him. He gets back up on him this time round. He's over 105, so he doesn't have any secrets from the assessor back in a handicap, but it gives me kind of like the novice handicap chase at Cheltenham, the vibes of this race. It's almost like a condensed conditions race. I think there's only £7 or £8 from top to bottom. So that shouldn't be of major concern. I just think he's a type of horse that still might be a group race or a group 2, group 3 sprinter by the end of the season. There's more to come from this horse. He was quite eye-catching, went fourth at Salisbury on reappearance in a race that wouldn't have suited him. I think a bigger field will. I think at 10.0, I think he's a very strong play for me in both the win and place market.
Very good. So that's Giraffe 10.0 win place for Andrew. Charlie, look in there.
Yeah, a couple there. I mean, More Thunder, who I've been with earlier this year, and he's 2 from 2 this time round, both at Newmarket. He got a little bit outpaced on both occasions, especially with the most recent start before hitting the line strong. The horse he beat there on both times, a Ram that's come out and won his next start up at Newbury, and I just think there's heaps more to come from this horse. Again, I thought the track at Ascot would suit him really well. So he's my first one. And then just at a bigger price, Shartash for the Archie Watson team. Started off really well last year for Archie when I think they bought him out of Johnny Murtagh's. And he's a real classy horse, ended up pitching up in group company, running well through the latter part of the season. This time round, first start back at Lingfield was solid. He was third there, was very promising. And then the last twice at Southall, not so much, but there's been excuses. Found trouble on his latest start and fell out the stalls on the penultimate start. So he's down on his mark as well. I think he reached a high of 111 with Archie. He's now down to 102. Cheek pieces go back on, and I think Archie Watson is one of those trainers that he invariably does well on the straight track at Ascot. He's won this race before a couple of years ago, and I thought at 15.0 to back and win and place. He's also a lot of back class, and if he pitches up, that might look very big. But More Thunder at the top of the market also.
It's More Thunder and Shartash for Charlie. Steve?
Germanic, who is trained by Julie Camacho, but has only had 2 starts for Julie, was trained by William Haggis, who's got More Thunder in here. So he might well have, hopefully, given away the winner of the Wokingham, because, or not given away, but he cost a few quid. But he ran really well first time up for Julie Camacho, but clearly in need of the run in that race at Leicester. And then on the all-weather at Newcastle last time, again, a little bit keen early. So I think the fact that they're going to go quick, and the pace for me, a lot of it seemed middle to far side. So being drawn over there in stall 10, I think might just be a help. And he won't be far off the pace himself, just behind it, one would imagine. But he was second last time to Ferris, who was completing a hat-trick of wins. And Ferris had previously beat a Ram. So they're quite closely matched. And I think Germanic, third time, I always think that sprinters, third time of the season is when they're absolutely spot on in general terms. And that's hopefully where Germanic will be. And I've got a feeling this horse is who had some good form for William Haggis. I think he's well handicapped, and everything looks in place for a big run at a big price.
Good stuff. So that's Germanic at 26.0 for Steve. Charlie has More Thunder at 6.0 and Shartash at 15.0. And Andrew is very strong on Giraffe at 10.0 in the Wokingham. The second last race of the week, the Golden Gate Stakes. Andrew, I'll come back to you there on this one.
Yeah, I can't really get my head around the horse I'm going to put up, but just a small one at a slightly bigger price in the shape of Roosevelt. Roosevelt for Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. Just an awfully strange campaigning of this horse. Ran a mile 2 maiden, came last, won a mile 4 maiden at Leopardstown, beating Delta, who's a good horse in his own right. Was up the arse at Carmers in a listed race at Navan, and then won a maiden himself. And then made his handicap debut a couple of weeks ago over 7 furlongs, which seemed like a bizarre kind of placement, and again came last. So he's got kind of 2 duck eggs and a 1 in the middle. I suppose I'm thinking to myself, was the 7 furlong handicap run almost a pipe opener to run in either this race or a mile and a half race at Ascot? And I'm hoping that's the case. Ryan Moore has decided to ride him, which is a positive in my eyes. And it's one of those where we don't have an awful lot, around the horse. It's very difficult to quantify whether 92 might be very tough on the horse. It might be quite unexposed for the horse. But I suppose at the price he is, I'm going to take a small chance that back up to a mile 2 might very much suit this horse. And if he can get out of stall 1 relatively quickly, we saw at Leopardstown he could dictate and like to go from the front. So maybe that will be the tactics employed.
Yeah, you're not going to get many chances to back Ryan Moore in a handicap at 15.0 on an Aidan O'Brien horse. So that's Roosevelt for Andrew. There's nothing for you, Charlie. Steve, do you want to come in there?
Too many pages open. Yeah. I fancy Ernst Blofeld, who ran 4th in the London Gold Cup last time. And that handicap at Newbury is always a hot race. And I think it will be again this year with Sadat winning it, who was among the entries for this race. But I think the ground might be a bit on the quick side. But the Ernst Blofeld ran like a horse who's still learning. And that was only his handicap debut. He'd previously run in a listed race at Newmarket. He only made his debut early April. So he's a horse that's got the potential to keep progressing. He's got cheek pieces on for the first time. He's in a big field for the first time, which will help. And he's got a wide draw, which is never a problem. So I think again, another wide open handicap. Ernst Blofeld should run really well.
So that's Roosevelt for Andrew, Ernst Blofeld for you, Steve. And I think if Archivist gets in his first reserve, he'll probably go off 3.0 and skip on. And we're on to the final race of the week then. Just the one bet in this. That's for you, Steve, in the Queen Alexandra.
Yeah, love this race because it's full of desperate horses. There's a lot of... there's a few in here I'm run on the flat and aren't exactly rated very high over hurdles. Not that official ratings, of course, mean anything. Don't forget that. So Trooper Bisdee for me. A horse who stays very well. Had a good time of it early last season. Very uncomplicated. Goes from the front when they need him to. Was 4th in the Cesarovic trial. Ran midfield in the Cesarovic. I thought his best effort was probably last time on his return to action behind Manxman and in a race at Goodwood. So if he just gets out in front, I think he could skip away from them.
It's the job. Trooper Bisbee at around 13.0 in the Queen Alexandra. So that's it now. We're just going to go through our long shots for Saturday. So my one is James Delight in the QE2 at 26.0. Steve?
I am going to go for Ernst Blofeld in the Golden Gates.
You can leave the mic on now, Steve. We're nearly there. Charlie?
Shartash in the Wokingham, please.
Yeah. And Andrew?
Roosevelt for me, but I'll certainly be having something on James's Delight like yourself.
That's the job. And finally, the best bets for the £5 money back special on the treble. So, Steve, we'll come to you again.
Flora of Bermuda in the Group 1 Sprint.
And Charlie?
Comanche Brave in the Jersey.
And finally, Andrew?
Taking my life in my hands, Giraffe in the Wokingham.
So that's some nice prices in there now. And that is it for Royal Ascot 2025. Thank you for watching. Hope you're back a few winners, and we'll see you all again next week. Thanks, lads.